If I had stayed with Apple, I probably would have wound up the richest man in the cemetery. The second problem was actually one of a monetary nature, because it was a company, not a corporation, which meant that everybody was personally liable if the company had any financial problems. Well, at that point in time, Jobs and Wozniak didn't have two nickels to rub together, but I had a house and a car and a bank account and everything else. If anything happened, I was the guy who was standing liable for literally for everything. Then Jobs went out and did exactly what he was supposed to do. He went out and he sold, I think it was 100 computers to a retail outlet called the Byte Shop. The problem was that I found out later on that the Byte Shop had a terrible reputation for not paying their bills. And then Jobs again did what he was supposed to do. He went out and he borrowed $15,000 to buy the materials to fill the order. Well, if this deal blew up, where was I going to get $15,000? So that was another reason. A third reason, and a very significant one, was the fact that I was the chief draftsman and product development engineer for Atari. And Atari was a very young company at that time, and their documentation system was a flaming disaster. So I went in there and I had to rebuild the documentation system, drawings, purchase parts, fabricated parts, from the beginning all the way up. And it turned into a manual that was about 400 pages thick, and set things up so that it was a workable system that served all the departments of the company. Well, Jobs was very impressed with that system, and I was certain that Jobs wanted me probably to run his documentation department. So I would wind up for the next 20 years in a large back office, shuffling papers. Well, I was a product development man in my own right. I had, my own spark of divine genius, and I wanted to go off and do things. You roll it all together, that and a few other things, and it became obvious that I really should not continue with this. So I had my name taken off the contract, and everybody asked me, don't you regret it? I mean, you'd have been a millionaire. Well, first of all, the numbers are very badly skewed. Okay, 10%, and the corporation is worth, what, $100 billion now or whatever it is, which is nonsense, because I had 10% of the Apple Computer Company. Well, Jobs had 45%, and I assure you, he didn't finish up with 45% of Apple Corporation. These percentages get diluted as you raise money to do things and so on. I probably would have wound up with perhaps $100 million at the tail end of it, which is fine. I would love to have had $100 million. But what it would have cost me along the way, psychologically, physically, and in personal satisfaction, $100 million wasn't worth it.